Yo, what is up guys? It is Samool here, back with another Epic 7 tier list for you guys today. And today I'm going to be ranking the 5-star RGB units for PvE. Now the last RGB 5-star PvE tier list I made was about 3 months ago, I think a little bit longer. And now with the new content coming out and new changes to some units, I'm going to be remaking this tier list because there are some significant changes that have come around. Notably like Light Expedition, Katie's Hunt being more available, and also more PvE units being released. So to get started, we're going to start at the top of the list here. Now keep in mind that this is my own opinion, and if you guys have differing opinions, that's fine. Just let me know down in the comments down below, and I'll keep it in mind for my next tier list that I make, which should be in another couple months for the same topic. Now starting with Alencia. So Alencia, not that great of a PvE unit. She used to be a very strong PvP unit when she first got released, and people were realizing how strong she was because of her insane damage and her strip and defense buff, but she's not that great in PvE in my opinion. I'm going to put her in C tier. Honestly, you can use her as a stripper and like Hell Raid if you really wanted to for Queen, but kind of unreliable, and her damage is pretty meh. She also relies on getting hit, so you have to put her in the front, and if you do that, you're going to sacrifice some of her damage because you're going to have to put some crit damage into health. Basar, yeah, he's D tier, not that great. Very weak unit for PvE, but very strong for PvP. Next we have Bellona. So Bellona is an easy S tier for me. Now I might be changing this as I go, but for now I'm going to put Bellona in S tier because she's very strong single target DPS. Her S1 has a % max HP damage modifier, also has a defense break, a lot of AoE damage, so very strong. She's an easy S tier, maybe even SS+. She's a bit underrated. Next we have Araminta. So Araminta is okay because she has an attack buff in my opinion. I'm going to actually put her in B tier. I think she's a little bit underrated. She has attack buff, which is really nice, a lot of AoE damage. The only problem is she has so many burns, and there's some bosses in the game where you can't have too many debuffs. But if you avoid those bosses, she's actually a pretty decent attack buffer because 1, she's a DPS unit, and 2, she also has an attack buff with her kit, so she can do some damage while buffing your team with some utility. Next we have Asaria. Asaria's an easy SS+, guys. She is insane. She has a skill reset with her S2, works very well with Tantran. She has a strip and unbuffable in her S3, full strip by the way. Also has a defense break in her S3 and her S1, so you have so many chances to land defense break. Very powerful unit. She also is low investment. You can literally run her on like super low mola, super low gear requirements, and literally have 5-star awakening, and she's very strong. You don't even need to 6-star her. Next we have Cecilia. So Cecilia is actually pretty good in Light Expedition right now, so I'm gonna put her actually in like top of B tier or maybe even like A tier. I'm going to lean towards A tier because she is a knight, so she can always frontline. She is very tanky. She also has some utility in her kit. But for Light Expedition, it's very hard right now for people to clear it because, the healing is pretty much non-existent there. So Cecilia is a very good tank for Light Expedition. I think she's the best, second being Aros. So yeah, easy spot in A tier for me. Celine, not that great. I'm going to put her in D tier, a little bit above Basar. You can use her as a DPS in general PvE as a single target. But the thing is, she is mostly a PvP unit used on defense teams to like counter cleave and like make Chloe teams and stuff like that. Cerise, so Cerise is an easy S tier as well, probably A tier actually. So I would put her higher, but she's not used in a lot of areas of content. But the areas she's used in are very specialized for her, and she's very good. Like examples being like Dark Expedition, she's very good. She's good in Katie's, she's good in Light Expedition as well. And she's pretty much best in slot for Dark Expedition and Light Expedition, so I have to put her in A tier, guys, similar to like Cecilia's argument. But yeah, without Cerise for Dark and Light Expedition, it's a lot harder. Sermia, easy S tier, very strong single target nuker. I might even put her like, I'm going to put her above Bellona for sure, but she is pushing SS+, because nowadays, since a lot of people are getting better gear, pushing for late game and more efficiency, people are starting to use a lot of one-shot comps. And Sermia is used in Golem one-shot. You can use her in Katie's one. You need her for Katie's one-shot actually, pretty much to make the gear requirements super low. You can use her in Asmnak one-shot as well. You use her in Light Expedition. You can use her in so many areas of content. She's also, well, I guess that's PvP, but yeah, she's good in PvP as well. So I'm going to put her in S tier. One of the best one-shotters in the game, and she's an RGB unit. The other one-shotters are going to be MLs, so pretty hard to find. Charles, not terrible, but not great. I'm going to put her a little bit above Araminta. He has a strip in his S2, so it's pretty decent against like Hell Queen and stuff like that. He does okay damage, but yeah, not that great. His S3 is cool, I guess, but I wouldn't really use him as a DPS unit in PvE. Charlotte, pretty decent AoE attacker in PvE, but kind of similar to Charles, where I wouldn't use her in PvE either because she has debuffs in her S1 and her damage, although it's pretty high in PvP, in PvE it's not as great. You don't really have, you know, as high attack damage, like attack modifiers as like other DPS units in the game, because like other PvE units will have like passives that boost their attack. Charlotte, although she's a great AoE attacker, you can use her in some like raid bosses. I wouldn't really, you know, prioritize her as a pull for PvE content. Next we have Chloe. So Chloe baits a lot of new players. They think that the nail is like super OP for Wyvern, but it's like really weird because you have to like literally speed tune your entire team to make sure the nail lands on the first turn of the boss, and that's like really hard to do as a newer player. And as a late game player, like you wouldn't want to do it, because why not just use Cigarette? Cigarette makes the runs more consistent and faster. So Chloe, I'm gonna put in D tier. Some of you guys might use her for Wyvern. She works, that's cool, but I personally don't think it is worth the time and investment. Sometimes you have to get lucky with your team comp and your gear rolls to make sure that she works. Shu, kind of similar to Alencia. Sure, you can use her in PvE, but not that great in PvE. Sure, you can use her in PvE, but not that great in PvE. She's mostly a PvP unit, but she's going to be higher than the other units because she does have some utility. Next, we have Destina, Soul Weavers. So Soul Weavers will always be like B or A at least. I'm going to put Destina at like B. She's like nothing really special. Her cooldowns are really long, so you can't really use her reliably as a healer, but she does have some really nice cleansing, which can come in clutch against some bosses that have very, very high debuffs. Next, we have Ada. So Ada recently got buffed, but that was more centered towards PvP. I don't really think that she's great of a unit. Honestly, I'll put her above Basar, but even in PvP, she's very lackluster. Not really much to be said because, yeah, she's just not good. Elena, so she's actually not bad. I actually placed her a bit low, I think, in my last tier list, but I was kind of testing her out in some raid bosses, and she's actually kind of fun to use, even though it's PvE. So I'm going to put her around the same place as Destina. She has some invincibility mechanics to cheat some bosses. You can use her against like Dark Corvus, Florin, or Abyss if you're struggling with that. There's also the CR push on herself and healing and cleansing, very, very nice. So also has Dispelling in her S1, so you can run her as your frontline with a counter set and Celestine, and she's actually pretty decent. Urvalen, so wow, Urvalen is like weird. So he's like a decent Banshee one-shotter, but he's like not decent because he's like kind of like the bottom of the barrel, and everywhere else he's not that good. And he was like solely designed for PvP, and he's like pretty trash in PvP as well. So for like Banshee, I guess he's like B tier one-shotter, but like I'm gonna put him in C tier because like you can't really use him anywhere else, really. You can use him as like a defense break, I guess. Wait, does he have a defense break? No, I don't even think he has a defense break. Yeah, he's pretty useless. So I'm gonna put him in C tier. Like, if you have to use him for Banshee one-shot, sure, but there's so many better options. You can use, like, Bellona, Euthene, obviously, like, Baiken and Strays, but those are MLs and limited, so if you don't have them, you can use, like, Lilibet. There's better options that you can use. Flan, so Flan is a B tier. So Flan is actually, like, very powerful for Wyvern one-shot, but she's kind of like Urvalen in the sense that you only really use her in Wyvern one-shot, but she's, like, really good in Wyvern one-shot, so I'm going to put her in, like, B tier. Somewhere around like here, honestly probably here. She's just really good in Wyvern one-shot. She will lower your gear requirements by a lot if you use her, so if you're struggling with Wyvern one-shot and you have a Flan, you can use her instead of like your Cairn and you'll be fine. Next we have Haste. Yeah, this guy, Smilegate like hates this guy. I don't know why. Like they like don't buff him ever, and everyone asks to buff him, and he's like, honestly his design is super cool. His animations are like actually pretty sick, but he just sucks. So D tier. Honestly, we'll put him like here. Actually, I've actually seen him in Wyvern 13 one-shot teams where he uses his bleeds with Cigarette. So let's put him like top of D tier. But like, yeah, I don't know if I think the gear requirements were pretty high. Maybe they weren't high, but regardless, not that great. So Violet, pretty good in KDs. You can use him in some expeditions. Honestly, like wherever I put him, it's probably a little bit higher than he actually is in PvE because like I'm like scarred for life facing this guy in PvP where just counters and one shots my team. So like I'm like just like gravitating towards like putting him in like SS. But honestly, it's probably like a B tier, somewhere around like here because very good in KDs. He's just countering over and over and it's really annoying, and yeah, I hate that guy, but he's good in PvE in some areas of content. Ilyanov, so very good in one-shot teams actually. So I actually underrated her. I thought she was like pretty weak, but the more I like see her being used in some other like people's like runs and stuff like that, I actually think she's pretty decent, and I kind of wish I used her because she's kind of cool. So I'm gonna put her like, I'm gonna give her I'm gonna give her the content creators, seal of approval and put her in the B tier because pretty cool animation. So I'm gonna boost her up a bit, and she actually is really good for one-shot teams. Very underrated. You should actually try using her if you're struggling or you don't have that many one-shot teams built and you have her, because she's actually pretty cool and will make your one-shot teams a little bit easier to build. Bomb Model Kana. So she's not really worth pulling from banners because you can get her for free, but I'm gonna put her in S tier, probably around like here, because very solid DPS. Honestly, maybe even SS plus, because she's super good at dealing damage, very good in Earth Expedition as well, and Golem Hunt, Asimnak Hunt, Raid. Honestly, pushing SS plus tier. I might have to put her above Sermi actually. I think she's very good, and ever since Smilegate added her to the connections list, I feel like they gave newer players a really good AoE DPS option for a lot of content. Now, moving forward, we have Kayron. So Kayron's only really used in Earth Expedition. You can use him in like Hell Raid as well. He's not terrible, but I don't really think he's that great. Kind of is a similar problem with Charlotte, but I guess you can use him in Earth Expedition, so he should be like around here, to be honest. Honestly, I'm going to put Flan a little bit up as well. I know I'm changing it as I go, but kind of bothers me that Flan isn't a little bit higher. Calric, PvP unit. He's actually very good in PvP. Very underrated speed contester. But yeah, not that great. I'm going to put him in D tier. Probably around like Chloe. Ken, actually very decent in PvE. People kind of like to shit on him because, he's a selective summon unit. No one wants to pick him. And you don't really use him anywhere where he's like super good in that one area content. But he's a pretty decent defense breaker, single target DPS. He's actually pretty good in like Golem, Raid, Abyss. Like early game PvE, he will carry you, especially as a newer player. So I'm going to put him in the B tier for the benefit of the doubt. Kisei, yeah, D tier or C tier. Honestly, I'll give her C tier because she does really decent damage against buff targets, and bosses are usually buffed most of the time, unless you're bringing like a unbuffable, like a Seria or something like that. But she's a pretty decent single target DPS. Only thing is she's really squishy, and yeah, she's mostly suited for PvP. Crow, easy A tier, maybe even S tier, probably S tier honestly. You can use him as a Wyvern tank, you can use him as Fire Expedition tank, you can use him as a Dark Expedition tank, you can use him as a tank anywhere. This unit is just broken by design. He literally has like a super hard hitting nuke with his S3 that gives him a fat shield, and defense buff on your entire team, which will make you super tanky. For PvE, he's like a little bit worse than Aros, but he's still pretty good. Next we have Litica. So Litica is like a C tier, maybe B tier. I'll put her in B tier because you can make some weird team comps with her and like Shuri, where you just CR manipulate the enemy teams. In Abyss, there's like a popular YouTuber that does that all the time for every single floor up to 120, and it worked. So has to be a good unit, right? Lilibet, yeah, one-shotter, similar to Urvalen, so I'm going to put her probably right next to Urvalen because I guess you can use it as a one-shotter for there, but mostly suited for PvP. Looking at my tier list right now, I think this looks correct. Lilius, easy S tier, so she used to be SS+, but with the release of new units, she actually isn't as needed anymore. There's like so many units that can cleanse nowadays. You can just use Aros as well instead of her, and he's pretty much a little bit better than her in like most areas of content for PvE anyways. So put her in S tier. She's still very good, don't get me wrong. Her AoE cleanse, her AoE damage, she does a lot of damage as well. And her S1 to constantly pull dual attacks. If you get lucky with your DPS, you're going to do a lot of damage on her turn as well. But I think Aros is a bit more consistent and just a bit better in PvE. Ludwig, so you can use him as a one-shotter in Banshee. Yeah, he's not good either. He's kind of like Haste. He's like the green Haste. He needs better, he needs more buffs. I guess he's used in Banshee one-shot, kind of how like Haste can be used in Wyvern one-shot, but yeah, that unit needs help. Like Smilegate needs to buff this unit ASAP because he sucks in both PvE and PvP. Next we have Luluka, so Luluka SS+. I really like this unit a lot. I think a lot of people underrate her, but I think she's like super strong. You can use her in Wyvern if you really wanted to. Asmonak, you can use her in Raid, like everywhere. She's good in Fire Expedition, Dark Expedition. You can use her in Katie's. There's just so many areas of content she's good in. And she's so good because she's a mage and can hold Isla Violin and be used as a Dispeller or a Stripper. Her damage is actually pretty crazy as well. Her base attack's pretty high. She has utility with her S2 to provide a defense buff and a shield if your team's like a little bit under-geared. Especially as a newer player and mid-game player, it'll really help you out. And she has a stacking attack buff, so I think she's like very underrated, very powerful unit. Melissa, PvP unit, kind of similar around like here, around these units here. Not really good in PvE. Mort, same thing, injury unit. Honestly, D tier, I'm just kind of like throwing them anywhere because they're very similar anyways. Ravi, I think I'm going to put her in A tier, probably because she's pretty much good everywhere. She's not really bad in any area content. She can literally solo a ton tower. She can solo some Abyss Floors. She's good in like Golem. You can use her in raid. You can even use her as a tank. If you build her tanky enough, you can use her as a frontliner on counter set, and she's like not terrible. She's just not really bad anywhere. Early game and mid game, she can literally solo like every stage for you. So very, very strong unit. Mui, very good in Banshee one shot as an attack buffer, but that's it. She has too many debuffs, so you're gonna trigger a lot of the passives on bosses that have to, you know, not have too many debuffs on them. Sigrid, so yeah, I'm like biased, but Sigrid SS plus. Honestly, she's probably like S because she's only using Wyvern, but she's so freaking good in Wyvern. She saves you so much time. Like, by having Sigrid on your account, the amount of time she saves you in your life because of how fast she makes her Wyvern runs, and the fact that you can also use her in one shot is like really, really significant. So SS plus for sure. Pavel, PvP unit, you know, throw him in the mix like somewhere here. Ray, decent cleanser, so probably around here as well. With the other Soul Weavers that are mostly PvP based, but still good in PvE because Ray has longer cooldowns as well. His healing's not that great either, but his cleansing is pretty crazy. Rowana, SS plus, you need her for Hell Raid auto. She is exceptionally good in KDs right now. She's exceptionally good in Ice Expedition, and you can use her pretty much everywhere, honestly. Her S2 is just super broken, and her S3 is really nice because if you mess up your auto and then something happens that's unexpected, you have that res to, you know, give you another chance. So very, very strong unit. You really want to pull Rowana. I think she's a little bit better than before, and she was really good in the past as well. Senya, I don't really like her that much in PvE, but she's not terrible. She does have a lot of buffs, so put her around like here. Says used to be like SS plus, but now he's pretty trash. This unit needs buffs, but I think he's like actually not terrible, so I'm gonna put him like C tier because you can technically use him as Wyvern debuffer, and he's actually a pretty good dog walker, and he's a good DPSer kind of, but not as OP as before. Vildred, I'm gonna put him in S tier because best DPS for Azmnak, very good in raid, very good in Banshee. You can use him pretty much everywhere, slot him in anywhere, especially for early game and mid game. He's very strong. I'm a little biased because he's my selective summon unit, but he's actually a very strong unit. Honestly, he's probably like around here, so I'm gonna put him there, so I won't be too biased. Politist, very, very bad PvP unit, next to Pissar, and Ada, because although she's very, very good in PvP, she's actually not that great in PvE. So Zahak, I think people can use him as a one-shotter for Banshee, right? So I'm gonna put him like around here. But the thing is, he's mostly a PvP unit, like I said. Ran, kind of the same thing. He's mostly a PvP unit, but you can technically use him as a defense breaker in some teams. He's super fast, so he'll cycle real fast. You can probably use him as a decent DPS, so I'll put him around here. Balance is on. I'm going to put him in S tier. Extremely good in Raid, Abyss, Earth Expedition, Golem, Azmnak. Just have to be careful because he has poisons and a lot of debuffs. But if you avoid those, he's actually a super strong DPS that does a lot of damage. Euphine, similar to Rebellion. Banshee one-shotter. Put it right there. Vivian, easy S tier. Somewhere around here. Maybe like here, I think, because she's really good for Banshee one-shot, Azmnak one-shot. You can use her as a general purpose AoE DPS and single target DPS. She's pretty decent. Just having that immunity buff and attack buff is very, very valuable for PvE. Tywin, not that great. He's like Flan, but worse in every aspect. And honestly, in PvE, he's not that good. You can use him as a tank and even a Wyvern tank. So I guess I'll put him like bottom of C tier. But yeah, not that strong in my opinion. Tenebria, I'm going to put her next to Balances On. Very strong. A lot of damage, a lot of debuffs. Honestly, I'm going to probably bump these down to A tier because they're kind of specialized for Earth Expedition and I guess like some raid bosses, but they're very strong units. Very similar in how they work, except that Balances On does a little bit more damage and Tenebria does a little bit more better debuffing. So yeah. Tamarin, easy top of S tier. I think that's no surprise. So very, very strong unit. She's a powerhouse Soul Weaver, best Soul Weaver in the game, best PvE unit in the game by far. And yeah, if you don't have her and you see her banner, just please pull her. She's better than any limited or collab unit you can get as a newer player. Now, if you guys didn't notice, I don't know if I mentioned, I left out the limited and collab units because, yeah, obviously those units you want to pull anyways because they come around once a year. So make sure you pull those. Now, remember, this is my own opinion, guys. You're allowed to disagree. And if you guys disagree, let me know in the comments down below what you guys actually think. And I'll be updating my tier list regularly as time goes on. So keep your eyes peeled for other tier lists coming out in the future. Peace.